Hey guys, welcome back to the American Dream Podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, Moises Morales, Executive Director of Advocacy Homes.
Yes, sir. ¿Cómo estás, mi brother?
Good, brother. Thank you for coming, man. Let's get right into it, brother. What's your story? I know we were talking a little bit before this started just now, but I really want to touch base with you. So let's start with you as a kid, from there to now.
Oh man, I mean, it started when I was born, you know.
Yeah,
literally. And no, but I'm originally from Delicias, Chihuahua, Mexico, right?
Okay.
So we're in Texas right now, so right under.
Okay.
And you know, I remember my mom and all my family members tell me that as a kid I used to talk all the time, right? And I was a troublemaker left and right, you know. And then I was always that kid, and eventually, you know, my parents got the opportunity to come to the United States, right? And we came in 2000, I want to say. We came just to visit, right? And the typical story, bro, where, you know, somebody offered my dad a job and, hey, come work. And I remember he stayed in the United States to work. We went back to finish school. And then, you know, the typical big lie that a lot of us get, right? Hey, we're going for a 2-week vacation. I'm like, awesome, dude. And 22 years later, that 2-week vacation is still going, right? And so it was one of those that at first it kind of hurt because as I found out throughout time, is it felt like I got ripped away from my roots, right? And planted somewhere else. And so, but I had to look at the sacrifice that my parents took, right? So I was like, all right, well, they worked their ass off to get us out here. What am I gonna do to make sure that I'm, you know, kind of paying it forward or paying it back, whatever you want to call it, right? And so that's when we decided, all right, well, you know, if we're gonna be here, might as well do something with it. And so I ended up trying to learn English as fast as I possibly could. And at this age, I'm 12 years old when we got to the United States. So I was like, I gotta learn English as fast as I possibly can because I did not want to be in the ESL classes.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, like I need to go to regular English, you know.
I was in ESL.
Yeah, so so you get it. And then after that, it was all right. Well, I remember even I had family members that would tell me like, dude, don't even play sports. Why are you playing sports? And I was like, well, shit, because I want to, you know. And so I remember I started playing football. I had no idea what football was, and they're like, can you kick? I'm like, yeah. You're a punter and a kicker now. I'm like, okay. And then I started playing soccer too. So, you know, I played soccer pretty much my entire life. So the fact that I was able to play it here even better. And then eventually just as time went on, I was like, all right, what else can I do, right? And I remember in Arizona on 2007, there was a law called the SB 1070 where a lot of undocumented students couldn't get private funding or even public funding. And so I had scholarships to go to ASU. I had scholarships to, you know, for Hispanic, for athletics, for academic. And just like that, they all got taken away, right? And so again, that's another wall, like a wall that you hit, and you're like, okay, well, what am I gonna do? And so we ended up finding, you know, little loopholes around there to continue that education. Eventually, somehow I got to go to ASU. So went to ASU for psychology. And, you know, my whole thought was like, all right, well, you know, I'm just going to have people sit on the couch and tell me about your problems. You know, that was the idea. But I noticed, you know, how like we were talking that I was bartending at that time. I found out that as a bartender, working 3 nights, I was making way more money than my professor who was a doctor in psychology. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense because that means he still has to go through his, like, in order for me to get to his level, I have to go through my master's. And then and I was like, bro, that's like 6 more years of school. And it did not.
And you're a bartender making more money than him.
Correct, working way less and having way more fun. And so I was like, this just doesn't make sense. And it got to a point where I'm like, I think I'm like, that's it. I don't know if I want to even continue because it just financially, it makes no sense, right? Yeah. And so that's when I decided, I was like, all right, well, what's the hardest thing that we can possibly do? And so somebody told me like, hey man, if you want to get into something hard, but something that gives you really good money, sales. It's like, all right, well, what's the hardest sale that you can possibly do, right? And somebody told me like door to door, like that is the hardest sale that you could possibly go. And I was like, all right, let's go for it, right? And so, because for me, it was just education. How can I get better? How can I learn? And then eventually I started working for a company called CenturyLink Internet Phone and TV, right? So, or we were selling, not working for CenturyLink, we were selling CenturyLink. And I did that for about 5 years. And it was cool because, don't get me wrong, the money wasn't cool, but what I learned there was cool. And so, because think about it, like being leaning in the route of psychology, I was focused a lot on behavior. And so knocking on somebody's door and actually getting to the opportunity to talk to people, that's where you see people's behavior in their home, in their house, where they feel the most comfortable, right? And so to analyze people and learn more about people and get the opportunity to, see pretty much more, learn everything about people, is like, oh, this is exciting, right? And then on top of that, I got the opportunity to train, coach, and develop others that would come into the company. And man, that's where I started falling in love with leadership. And eventually, a buddy of mine was like, hey man, he left CenturyLink, and this is back in 2016. And then he tells me that I called him in 2017 and said, hey, how's life outside of CenturyLink? He's like, dude, it's awesome. I'm selling roofs. I'm like, you're selling roofs? You don't just go to Home Depot and get like 2 to go and that's it? He's like, no, there's a process to it. And so he's like, you want to come check it out? I was like, sure. And I kid you not, man, in 5 hours, I made what in CenturyLink took me 5 days. And I was like, there's no way. Like, this is a joke. I remember talking to, she was my girlfriend at the time. I remember talking to her and like, or not my girlfriend, actually my fiance at that point. I was like, what do you think? She's like, I don't know, is this even legal? I was like, I think so. I'm like, I don't know. And so, I went back to CenturyLink and I just could not stop looking at roofs after that. And, I called him again and I was like, hey, can I come back? He was like, sure. And same exact thing, in 5 hours, I did what in CenturyLink took me 5 days. And I was like, okay, I think, I'm done, that's it. And so, so then I started working for with my buddy, just selling roofs. And I remember we went to Vegas, and this is in Arizona, right? We went to Vegas for the bachelor party because, I got married on August 26, 2017. Nice. And, we went to Vegas, and I asked my buddy, I was like, hey, you guys got to let me go drive around, see if there's any damage. And I was like, oh, my God, there's so much damage here. And so that's when we decided. In Vegas? In Vegas. Oh. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess, is this an opportunity? Can we make it happen? And sure enough, I remember at that point, the guys that I was working with, in my wedding day, they asked like, hey, Vegas is open. You want to take it? I'm like, yes, dude. So we canceled our honeymoon. We moved to Vegas. Like we went to Vegas so I can show my wife, what I was talking about. We knocked doors during like our honeymoon. And, that's when, what do you think? You want to move to Vegas? She's like, yeah. I was like, all right, let's go. So we ended up grabbing everything. We didn't have a house. We only had our office. So we grabbed all our stuff. We took it to the office. That was October 1st, 2017. We got to Vegas around 10 p.m. 15, 30 minutes later, the Mandela Bay shooting happens. And that was one of America's biggest, shootings in history that they've had. Yeah. And for us, it was like, that's happening down like a mile away from where we're staying. So, that's where life puts a choice in front of you, right? Where you can either go back to what was comfortable, go back to, all those people that say, no, why do you move to Vegas? You're going to fail. You don't know anything about roofing. The family members that, ¿pa qué te vas? You're good here, right? Yeah. Or say, let's just stick it out and see what happens, right? And so that was almost 8 years ago, man. So in that time, we've done, just in Vegas alone, we've done over 8,000 roofs. We've gotten the opportunity to travel throughout the United States, teaching, coaching, training people how to do what we do, right? We got to partner up with a bunch of different business owners that has allowed us to be able to build this entire umbrella, right? Called Advocacy Home, that it gets me so excited because now, it started as a super tiny little idea, and now we have over 100 employees, 20 plus of them being overseas. So we have people in Mexico, Colombia, actually, Argentina, Philippines, right? People in Arizona, Idaho, New Mexico, Vegas, here in Texas, and it's just, it continues to grow, right? And the fact that all that has led it to this point today, to get the opportunity to talk to you, man, it's something that brings me back to what I was telling you about my parents, right? Well, if I'm gonna do something, if I look at the sacrifice that they did, how can I utilize that to make sure that it was worth it, right? That it was, at least they know, like, hey, the sacrifice that it took to get here, it paid off. And it paid off on the actions that myself, my little brother are doing, right? And so, because think about it for you, man. Like, you were saying you were born here, right?
Yeah, I was born here.
Okay, and then, but think about what your parents had to go through to get here.
I have.
And
so I created this.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
See?
Yeah.
And how does that feel?
Feels good, but the job's not done yet. We still have a long way to go, but we're doing some great stuff.
Let me ask you, even though you've been doing it for a while, does it feel like you just started?
In a sense, yeah, kinda. I mean, that's a good question. Like, I mean, we're moving so fast at such a fast pace in such a short amount of time that it's very impressive, and I think God is good in that aspect of it. But there's so much, so many other things that we have planned out. Yeah. Like, this is just barely touching the surface, if that makes sense. So it's like a yes and no question, if that makes sense. But let me ask you a question. So your childhood and your parents, I think you're the first Latino we've had so far here, right?
I'll take that, yes. Actually,
I think you are. So I think we can relate to the childhood and the sacrifices that our parents brought for us to come here, that opportunity. Yeah. Take me through your childhood in terms of your parents. Like, how did you know what they were sacrificing? What were they doing? How was that like?
Dang, that's a good one. So this is one that I tell, and I've told my parents before. I'm like, your parents want to give you what they didn't have as a kid, right? And so my parents, we grew up, from what the stories that they tell me, we grew up in like a, house that had like no floor, right? It was just dirt. And for them, it was probably worse. And so, but they wanted to give me what they didn't have, right? Which in their case, it was material possessions, right? El PlayStation, el Nintendo 64, the Super Nintendo, the original Nintendo, the best shoes, the best skateboard, the best whatever, right? But that came at a sacrifice, and that sacrifice was to work to get all that, to get money to buy all that stuff. So unfortunately, I didn't have them around that much because they were always working all the time, right? And so, which again, nothing against. They taught me work ethic.
What were they doing for work?
My factory, like they were working in a maquilaria, something like that.
In the U.S. or was that in Mexico?
That was in Mexico.
Okay.
And then, we come here and same exact thing, right? They're working for call place La Dolce Vita. They were making biscottis, right? And they did that forever, man. And actually, you can still find them at Costco. And so, but they no longer work there. But anyway, same exact thing, right? They came, they work, and it was one of those where, gosh, why are they working so hard? Why? What's the point? What are they trying to prove? What are they? Is it that, do we not have money? Do we? And for me, when I was working at the bar, it was money just came easy because it's the bar, right? It's tips. It's a lot of money, and so it was like, what is it? And then come to find out, it was just the fact that hey, there was options that they had, but then because of the situation of the papers and the documents, there was a lot of things that they couldn't do, and unfortunately, because a lot of the times we don't help ourselves or we don't help others, right? People don't tell them like, hey man, if you actually do X, Y, and Z, you can actually open up your own business without even having to have papers. Wait, you can do that, right? So for me, my parents were always working, and that's when I realized there has to be a different way. There has to be. Like, there's no way that I'm gonna work my entire life and just work without actually enjoying what I'm doing. Because you could tell, right? You can tell in your parents' face, you can tell in their eyes that, they're tired. it's another day. I gotta go to work, right? In the weekend, like, you know, for us it was let's go to the mall, but let's just window shop because we know there was no money to, you know, get the nice sneakers or get this or that. So, but again, I will forever be grateful for that because it just taught me something that we have as Latinos that I feel like a lot of, you know, other cultures or other people don't have is that work ethic.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, there's times that, you know, even my wife would get mad at me and say, like, slow down. I'm like, I can't. I don't want to. I know I can.
Yeah.
And I know, and I need to sometimes, but it's just, I love working. And so, and again, that came from my parents.
I think you're kind of on the money there. The way I see it too, which is I'm really passionate about. It's funny you say that. With the Latino community, I feel like sometimes we're underserved and unappreciated, and people kind of look over us. If you go to a Chinese restaurant, I bet you there's a Latino cooking your Chinese food, right?
I say, Juan,
you know, you're parking your car, Latino. You know, you wash your hands, a towel, Latino. It's always Latinos, and I think, you know, we come here with an opportunity, and we have this dream and concept, but unfortunately, I think sometimes us as a community even hold each other down. You know, sometimes we don't want to see each other win. And then that's why I created this, because I'm like, if you open your eyes, you're like a blind horse and you see the bigger picture, you'll understand why and how to make money.
Oh man, let me tell you this quick story.
Yeah.
And I heard this story a long time ago. There was a guy that was fishing for Mexican crabs. And you know, like he would just catch a crab and put him in the bucket and just continue fishing, right? People were looking at him like, dude, why are you not putting a lid on the, you know, that's so weird. He's not, there's no lid and none of them are getting out. What's going on? And so eventually those people that were wondering that, they came up to the fisherman and asked him, hey sir, like we've been noticing that you're catching a lot and you're throwing the bucket, but they don't get out. And the fisherman was like, well, you know, these are Mexican crabs, or Latino crabs, I guess in this case. Latino crabs, what does that mean? So as soon as one tries to get out, everybody else is pulling right down.
Damn.
And oh man, that hurts so much because it's true. It's a lot of the times, you know, instead of celebrating each other's successes, a lot of times, no, I need to be doing better than that. Or no, how can I make it so that person doesn't succeed? Or no, I was here before and that person is going way faster than I am. No, like a lot of the times we are the ones, we're our own worst enemies sometimes. So the question is, and the thought came into place, what happens think about Mexico, and I'll just put Mexico, I'm from Mexico, but think about when a disaster happens, right? A huge earthquake or tsunami or whatever, right? Everybody stops hating on each other and they stop helping each other. And oh man, the beautiful stories that come out of that, because we start pushing ourselves to help, right? Which again, just as good as we are to work hard, we can be really, really, really good at helping others and helping ourselves most importantly. And I think that shift is happening with something like the American dream, something like getting the opportunity to see someone young like you, right? Saying, no, we're making the shift of the cultural shift of we're not gonna focus anymore on you know, pulling each other down or stumping each other down. We're gonna focus on lifting each other up. And let me ask you this though, for you, now that you know that you're, you know, a beacon of hope for the Latino community, how does that feel?
Man, that's a really good question. I've never been asked. I think in my aspect of it, or my opinion of that, I say it's not really me, it's God.
Yeah.
I believe in God. I believe in Jesus, and I think everyone has a purpose in life.
Yeah.
And I think if you do your absolute best every day and live your life towards God, I think you'll end up becoming so successful in whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone goes through different stuff, different obstacles, different stories, but it's the same end goal.
Yeah.
Right? And for my end goal is to bring and create a legacy and help the Latino community. And I just want to help. People ask me, how are you so successful? I just want to help.
Yeah.
And it takes you, I provide value any way I can.
Yeah.
and that's what's taken me a long way. But you know, I like to humble myself a little bit. I don't like to see myself as a, I guess, quote unquote beacon. But if people see me as a role model, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But I always like to preach, I'm not perfect. There's only one person that's perfect, and it's God.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just here living life the same way you're doing it. I'm just trying my best.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm trying to encourage people to like, hey man, you can do it if you just work together.
Yeah.
But having said that, I want to dig more into the entrepreneurship, because you're doing really well, by the way. You have over 100 employees, which is really impressive. And you're going from a dropout, essentially.
Yeah.
And then from a bartender, now you have over 100 employees. Where does that entrepreneurship mindset, that business mindset come from? What is the secret, I guess, in that case where you went from 0 to 100 employees?
Oh, great question. It started as I'm really good at one thing, right? I'm really good at sales, and I'm awesome with people, I think, right? And when I say I'm awesome with people, meaning I understand, you know, going back to what I was saying earlier, I understand human behavior, I understand how people operate, I understand all that. So it allows me to be able to, you know, have better relationships, I guess. And so, cool, how can we make it so that we continue to grow, right? Because you have two different options. We could do this on our own and make way more money and have zero, like, you know, having to deal with people. But then it goes back to the point that you just said, right? I want to help, right? I truly feel like I'm in a people helping people business. I'm just using roofing as an avenue to get there, right? And so it feels awesome to help. You know, like I told my guys, I was like, look at, you knock on one door, right? Because we do a lot of door-to-door sales still. You knock on one door and you create that contract, right? What happens is, hey, we create an opportunity for you, sales guy. Good job. You did your job, right? Okay. And then from that, it goes into, you know, where we put our contracts into our system, and then we have the person in the system that's transferring all the information. And then we have the person that makes the phone calls to the adjusters. Then we have, you know, the person that it's coordinating with the adjusters. Then we have the adjuster himself. Then we have the negotiators. Then we have the supplementers. Then we have the customer service. Then we have the construction individuals, the construction manager. When we do the construction meeting and we finally pick a color of material, think about all the work that goes into just getting one shingle into somebody's house, right? It's, we've been to those where they make the shingles and you're like, oh my God, like all this just for that little piece of shingle. Yeah. What else? You know, the material that we use gets bought on, they make it in Hillsboro, Texas. So, you know, from Hillsboro, it gets driven all over the country, right? So think of all the truck drivers, think of all the, you know, everything that goes into just driving a truck. And then from there, you know, once it gets to the house, the labor, right? Think of all the roofers. Think of all the people that throw away the trash. The people that, after that, I have people that do billing and people that close. So it becomes such a chain of reaction by just. And so the way we became into them, you know, to go back to your question, it was just learning to grow, right? And problems, we're always going to have problems, but that's the beauty of it. The reason why we are in the position that we are is because we've worked on how can we solve those problems, right? And if I know I'm having that problem, most likely somebody else is also having that problem. And so all we're doing is just providing solutions, right? Helping. Okay, does this work? Does that work? And you know, and I know it's cliche, man, and everybody talks about it, but it's so true. You're gonna fall time and time and time and time again. And I learned that through the experiences that I've had in life, right? Like I was telling you, where, shoot, I'm in a new country. I don't know anybody. I don't know the language. I don't know the culture. I miss my friends. I miss my family. I miss my toys, right? So there's a wall. But what happens is you go through it. And then once you get through that wall, you're gonna find another wall. And for me, it was like, all right, well, I didn't know, I honestly did not know that I didn't know anything about the whole papers and needing papers until I went to college. And all those scholarships got taken away from me.
Damn.
And they're like, oh yeah, it's because, you know, you have no papers. Wait, what do you mean I don't have papers? And they're like, well, yeah, you're an illegal. I was like, but I know the language. I know that. Well, you don't have this one paper, and I'm like, what? And so, again, another wall, and just go through it.
So what's in your mindset? Like, what's going on in your mind when you're going through these obstacles? Like, some people face an obstacle, they turn around, they don't do it. What's going on in Moises' head that tells him, F this, that's my goal, and I'm gonna get to that goal?
Oh, it's, and somebody tells me no, I'm gonna show you. Like, there's no way. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody, I remember, again, I have family that would tell me, you can't play sports. I'm gonna show you. Right? And then I ended up being like, I think in high, like I went to play soccer for a very long time, which I'm grateful for. And so that was awesome. But then, them telling me no, like, you're not going to be able to do it. Oh, watch. I'm going to prove you wrong. Same thing with school, right? Like, I remember crying because when the whole thing with the scholarships happened, they took everything away, and I was like, so what do I do now? And unfortunately, I can't remember, but in my class from when I graduated, not a lot of us went to college. So, I don't want to become a statistic. I don't want to be that guy that could have. And I remember, I can't remember who said this, who I heard it from, but they talk about, like, imagine if you're in your deathbed and somebody opens the door. Yeah. And that door is a version of you that could have been.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. Oh, man. When I heard that, I was like, because think about it. Like, there's always that version of you that could have been, right? But I know that at this moment is the version that is, right? It's not what could have been. No. This is it right here.
So I understand. So mindset is one thing, right? You have the mindset to become successful, to drive, to want more, right? And I think everyone should easily admit to themselves that it's okay to want more and to be ambitious and to be hungry and driven. Like I always have that hunger, brother. Like, trust me, no one. I'm just like you. Like, watch and see. Yeah. Having said that, I understand business, right? You started to grow it. You have the right mindset, but now I think I want to dig more into you as a person, because people see this picture or this facade of, like, this guy's successful. He came from Mexico here. He's doing really well. But as a person, like, personal challenges, what were you facing throughout the trajectory of your business? Was there anything that kind of, like, held you back as a person?
Yeah, I mean, God, that question, man, it's a good one, because you gotta dive deep into yourself.
Exactly.
Right? And a lot of times that's what we don't want to look at. Because think about it, that's when, no, you're wrong, and you're wrong, and you're wrong. But that's the saying of, like, you point one finger forward, three are pointing right back at you, right? And so, man, it's the doubts. Like, there's always the what if, right? The what if I don't make it? What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if, what if I get in trouble? Like, there's always a what if, right? The second thing is sometimes it can be really good, sometimes it can be really bad. Like, I remember talking to a mentor a long time ago, and I would complain, and this is when I was younger, I would complain about, like, I had a really bad week, and oh my God, this month sucked. And he was like, just wait until you have bad years. And I was like, no one has bad years until you actually have a bad year. You're like, this is what a bad year looks like. And so personally, you have to go through those problems, those issues, those struggles that if you come out of it, and the other side, you come out of it so much stronger. And, I'll give you one that God, I would forever, man. It was when my parents separated, right?
How old were you?
30, 29, 27, 28. And the crazy thing is, because I know that happened with you too, right? When you were younger, like 12?
Yeah, like 12.
Yeah. It still hurts the same. Like, even though I'm an adult, it's like, you know, they're your parents. Like, you know, it's not supposed to happen. But I remember, and then my mom lived with my wife and I for a whole year. And my wife and I had just gotten married, and we had just bought our house, and she was with us for a year, right? And it was always the trying to get my mom and my wife to make a decision of, okay, what are you guys gonna do? I'm just working, make a decision, right? And it wasn't until, for a whole year, I put off a conversation with my mom. I didn't want to talk to my mom about it. I didn't want to, like, you know, have the awkward conversation, have the critical, hard conversation, until it got to a point where, you know, my wife was like, hey, if we don't do anything about the situation that's happening right now, we might have to take a break from each other. I'm like, dang. Like, I mean, she didn't tell me that until after, but then I had the conversation with my mom of like, hey, Mom, I love you with all my heart. And I hope you understand that I need to focus on my marriage. So we need to get you in an apartment, or we need to get you in like a house or something.
How was that conversation?
And dude, I've done skydiving. I love snowboarding. One of my goals is to go swim with sharks. Like, I want to do all these crazy things. Having a conversation, a real conversation like that with my mom was literally the scariest thing I've ever had to do. I don't know why. You know, I can talk to thousands of people in front of me and no problem. But when it comes to having that conversation with my mom, it was so hard. And I remember I had that conversation, and then she's like, I feel the exact same way. I'm like, wait, what? She's like, yeah, no, I know that I've been, you know, I see how you feel. I see how it happens. I see the struggles that you're going with. I see how your business is going down. I see how your relationship is going down. She's like, and I know it's because, you know, you're trying to do all this for everybody, but you're not doing anything for yourself. And man, I tell you what, after we had that conversation, we found my mom a job like this. She was in her own apartment within a month. She had her driver's license within a month. My business just started going up again like that. And so that's where I realized, dang it, it's up to me. It's up to me to make sure that, you know, the hard decisions, I'm the one that has to make them. Right? The hard conversations, I'm the one that has to have those conversations.
So your mom said something, and I want to touch base on that. She said, you're always trying to help other people where you're never helping yourself.
Yeah.
How important, and I mean this in a good way, how important is it to be selfish?
Oh, dude, it's super important, because what's the point of trying to help everybody if you're in the hospital sick and dying, right? Like, no, you have to be like, for instance, something as simple as going to the gym, right?
That's a way of being selfish, I agree.
Yeah, like it's being selfish. Like, hey, I go to the gym at this time. From this time to this time, nobody bothered me, because that's the time where not only am I working on my body, but I'm working on my mind too, right? Selfish with learning how to say no. It's time,
that's a good one.
Oh man, learning how to say no. That's a hard one for me. Is I had to learn that the hard way, where, you know, no, because, you know, you say yes to everybody, then you start spreading yourself so thin to the point where anything can easily break you, right?
And that could easily take your business down.
So quick. Like,
it's competitive too. You're in a competitive industry. You have to be
Yeah.
hungry, driven, very selfish in that aspect.
Oh yeah, and you know, to be able to say, like, there's times that even in our business, right, they're like, nah, I don't want to. Why not? Because you know, it's my my sanity over. I'd rather have my sanity or my peace of mind over anything else, right? And so learning how to say no, it's a huge one. What else? I'm very selfish with my time. Man, like, it's one of those where I think time is more valuable than absolutely anything else that's out there, right? So it's one of those where I protect it as much as I possibly can, right? And the cool thing is I take control of my time, and I'm able to do whatever it is that I want with that time, right? And that includes time with family, time with, at work, time with friends, time for this, right? And most importantly, time for myself. Because at the end of the day, it's, yes, I am working my ass off. And yes, like, to go back to what I was telling you earlier, the way my parents wanted to give me what they didn't have was, material possessions. For me, I want to give my daughter what I didn't have with my parents, which was time with them. And so, is it traveling cool and all that? Yes, absolutely. I love traveling. But it's one of the hardest things that I have to do because I'm sacrificing time with my daughter to be here, to be, wherever it is I'm going. So that's, the importance of how selfish I am with my time. Right?
So let me ask you a question. So in the trajectory of your success in business, I know you mentioned your girlfriend and the fiance wife, who's the same person. How important was that throughout the development of everything?
Oh, I love that girl, man. She, jokes. I would not be here if it wasn't for her.
Why is that?
She's pushed me all the way. Like, we were just having this conversation like 2 nights ago. We were sitting, we just got like our entire backyard redone, which, we look at it and it's like, oh my God, did you ever picture this? Like, no. Did you? No, dude. And so it's the beauty and the magic of growing together, right? We're not growing old, we're just growing together. And so what does that mean? Is, when her and I first met, it was like, hey, nice to meet you. Hi, how are you? And then from there, it just kept growing little by little, right? And so we lived in like a kind of cool apartment. And then we had to like downgrade to a super crappy apartment, like super crappy in the super ghetto. And it was like, man, which, it was in Scottsdale, and the super ghetto was like McKillop's and Granite Reef. It wasn't that, it was still nice. And so, but then I had to move to 48th and Broadway. That was ghetto. Anyway, so we started like growing, and I remember like the apartment that we had, it was just a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, super tiny apartment. And then from there we moved into a bigger apartment, and then we got into like this awesome condo, and then we moved to Vegas, and then we had this awesome house, and then that we rented this house, and then we ended up buying a house, and then we just kept growing and growing and growing. And then our family grew by a kid, and then our family grew by a business, and then now we have the opportunity to do this and that, things that back in the day we used to talk about, and now we're actually doing them. And so to be able to have, and that's one. The second thing is I'm able to go to work with a peace of mind. I'm able to go to work knowing that, hey, my wife, we're grateful and lucky enough that she doesn't have to work, and she, takes care of our daughter pretty much most of the time, actually all the time. But I get to see how my daughter is growing up, and I get to see, how caring, how, her laugh, her love, her, like everything about my daughter makes it so that she's learning that from my wife. And man, like if it wasn't for her, I bet you anything, there's no way that you and I would be sitting here. Because right now, even though I'm here, I know she's holding it down at home.
Yeah.
And if she wasn't holding it down, then, I would not be able to focus on this conversation specifically. It would be more like, well, I hope the house is not burning down, And so yeah, man, it's a team. And I always hear that, well, it's always a 50-50. It's like, no, it's 100 and 100. And it doesn't mean that sometimes that we're always 100 and 100. Sometimes my 100 might be 70 and her 100 might be 50. Sometimes mine is 100, hers is like 30. Sometimes she's 100, I'm like a 10, right? And so that's when I get the man flu. And so, but we have that understanding of, hey, it's us, right? It's like it's yes, she might not be here physically, but I know that because of her, I get the opportunity to be here. Beautiful. So that's why, she's.
So where do you see, I guess with everything that you've done and created, knowing like your childhood, your mentality, the way you were able to scale and build your business, considering the obstacles, and you still managed to push through them, what's the plan in like the next 10 years with what you want to do from the business and personal?
So that's a cool thing, man, is I want to make sure that the business and personal kind of, interact, right? Mm-hmm. So where this, and when I say this, I'm talking about showing the Latino community that, hey, we no longer have to be the ones working down there. If you want to, it's because you're choosing to, but you don't have to, right? So what does that mean? For me, okay, how can I continue to help, right? If I call my business a people helping people business, how can we make it so that we try to help at least one person? Mm-hmm. Because if we go back to the example of what I was telling you, like all the work that happens out of the one door knock, think about all those families that are getting fed. Mm-hmm. Think about all the people that we have in different countries that now their families are getting fed. Right, where I have one of our buddies and one of our guys in the Philippines. He's like, dude, I'm making more money than doctors. I'm like, what? Okay, like, good for you, right? Uh-huh. And so now the next step is, okay, how can we capitalize on making sure that we are continue to developing others, because I'll tell you, there's a statistic that I read recently. For every 10 contractors that are retiring, uh-huh, they're only getting replaced by 3. So 10 leave, 3 come into the picture, right?
Contractors or subs?
Contractors.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what does that mean? Is, like I talked about earlier, 80% of our labor force is Latino, mm-hmm, right? So how can we get that 80%, to be 79%, 75%? Mm-hmm. 60% are labor, 40% are now business owners. How can we teach them how can we show them that, hey, educate yourself, mm-hmm, do it the right way. Like, I know there's always ways to go around things, but it's just doing it. Sometimes the hard way is the right way, and a lot of the times that's what gets you, that consistency, right? Of like, money just shows up. Yeah, because you're doing it the right way, man. And so continuing helping that education for others to show them that, hey, if I look back, and at this point I'm 45, right? Mm-hmm. Like 10 years from today, to look back and say, dang, look at the millions of people, millions of people. There's about 64 million Latinos in the United States. How can we make it so that we at least are able to help, even if you help a tiny little, mm-hmm, amount of that is just gonna spread out.
So let me ask you a question. So let's say there's that Latino here from 2nd, 3rd generation, and their family came from Mexico, Colombia, wherever, and they're here. Let's say they're working somewhere just to try to make ends meet. They're scared, they're unaware, but they come to you and they say, Moises, what are the first 3, 4, or 5 things that I need to do to become successful like you? What would you recommend them to do?
I have 8.
All right, what are the 8?
And they call it 8 great work habits.
Okay.
So first things first is having to maintain a great attitude, mm-hmm, right? Having a great attitude is easy. Mm-hmm. Maintaining a great attitude is the hard part. Yep. Right? I know you've known it when where something doesn't go your way, and you just want to lose your, mm-hmm, but hey, I gotta maintain a great attitude, mm-hmm, right? Be on time. I tell my guys, like, hey man, be on time. Super important. It's again, for me, time is the most important thing that I have, right? So just like how you respect my time, I want to respect my clients' time or whoever time they're talking. Number 3, be prepared. And be prepared by, whatever they're, if it's a new guy that's coming, what do I want to learn? Okay, well, what do you want to learn? Mm-hmm. You want to do sales? Okay, how prepared are you in sales? Oh, you're not prepared? Okay, well, let's get you prepared.
Do you think it's important to be in sales to be a business owner?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. And it's not just about the sales, it's just about how to be able to have a simple conversation.
Interaction, yeah.
Like how to be able to, they call it the elevator pitch. How do you do the elevator pitch, right? So yeah, learning sales, and so, be prepared with something as simple as put gas in your car before it runs out. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
something like as simple as that. It's, you know, that's how you prepare. Work a full day, right? Number 4, work a full day. It doesn't mean like you're physically working, you know, full day. Oh, I gotta, you know, Mo told me to work 24/7. Like, no. When I say work a full day is, you know, separate your days into different parts, right? So like for instance, for me is the morning is for me, that's when I work on myself, right? A little bit in the morning, I get the opportunity to be with my wife and my daughter, and I'm just working on my relationship with them. And then I get to go to the office, and that's when I'm working on you know, whatever it is that I'm working on. And then even then, it's like, okay, at this time I'm working on this, I'm working on that, and then now this hour I'm working on this other thing, and then now I'm moving into the next thing, right? When I get back home, right, from like 5 to 8, family time. I'm working on my family, everybody leave me alone, right? And then from 9 to 10, that's where, hey, I get to work in the relationship with my wife. How was your day? What'd you do? What was the hardest thing? How was Violet? What was the craziest thing? Show me some pictures that you took. And we're just working and then at the end, at night, right? That's usually when I either get back to work because I want to be, you know, ahead of the game. Or, you know, that's where I indulge in some FIFA. And so, but, you know, working a full day, right? Work your territory correctly. So know what you're doing, when you're doing it, and all that. Number 6 is respect your customer and your client. So whatever it is that you're doing, you have a customer. Respect your customer and your company, sorry. You have a client, you have a customer. Respect them. Like I told my guys, I'm like, because of those guys that we're doing the roof for, we have work, right? The company, same exact thing, respect the company. Because of the company, either yours or somebody else's at the moment that you're working for, right? Respect it, right? Because of that company, it takes a lot of work, and I know you know, it takes a lot of work to keep something going.
Yeah, consistency, I think, is
that consistency,
too.
correct, right?
Yeah.
So respect it. And then the last 2, they're my favorite, dude, is understand your opportunity. Understand your opportunity. Think of, you know, let's put you as an example, right? What is your opportunity with the American Dream?
My opportunity with the American Dream is to captivate, motivate, inspire a community that's never had the opportunity. The way I met my mentor at 2 a.m., I want to bring that opportunity to them. That's what I want to do.
That's awesome, dude. And so, but you understand it.
Of course.
Right? And then we can even dive deeper into it. Right? What kind of people do you want to mentor? You know, how big do you think this can go, right? So for me, it's the same exact thing, right? I understand that, hey, we've actually done some work that can lead to something bigger than us, right? Where we can make it so that I'm creating something called dejando huellas, right? Which is leaving footprints. And what does that mean is we're literally, from everything, the entire experience that we've had, hey, this is how I messed up.
Yeah.
Let me teach you how I was able to move forward, right? But again, we understand that opportunity. And once you understand that opportunity, you got to take control. You have to. You're the one driving. No one else is. This vision, I see it because you presented it to us, but who's the one that sees it even more? You are.
Creator.
Yeah. And you're taking the control, man. You're the one that's, again, at such an age, who else is doing this? Who else is taking the time, the effort, the sacrifice, the late phone calls, the frustrating calls, when things don't go right, when you're expecting something and it doesn't go that exact way, and you're like, right? But at the same time, you're the one taking responsibility for the things that do go good, both bad and good.
Yep.
Right? And so, but who's the one taking control? You are.
Absolutely.
So think about it, man. Like those 8 great work habits that we call them, right? Those are the habits that have led me to where I'm at.
So 8 was take control?
Yeah.
Okay.
8 was, so 7, understand your opportunity, 8, take control. Because again, it's you're the one in control. Are things gonna go always the exact same way you expect them to?
No, of course not.
No.
Yeah.
But you don't let that bring you down. You take the control and you find a different way, right? And so, and if that doesn't work, guess what? I'm going to find a different way.
So let me ask you a question. I know we're a little short on time here, but essentially with everything, would you consider yourself a spiritual person or?
Yeah, I mean, it depends what type of spiritual we're talking about.
Well, do you believe in a higher power? Is there anything else that I guess kind of motivates you to become or do what you want to do in your business? Like a driving factor, I guess, per se?
It's the fact that I want to be who I didn't have.
That's good. Wow.
So, because again, it's that's why, earlier we were talking about a movement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't have that movement. I didn't, I tried, but people were like, "You're dumb." All right, I guess, But then now I see it again, and that ignites me, and that excites me, man, and that makes it so that, okay, how can I be part of it? How can I put my 2 cents in? How can I leave my grain of sand? How can I, leave my fingerprint? How can I, como estoy dejando huellas yo, right? So, because at the end of the day, it's gonna happen one way or the other, right? And so it's up to us to guide it to where we want it to be.
Beautiful.
And so, again, I just want to be who I didn't have.
I like that.
Yeah.
What would be your closing statement, I guess, to sum everything up for anyone that's listening or watching? What would be your final words?
Man, remember that, it depends on who's watching. I know there's a lot of different, types of people that are going to be watching this. But at the end of the day remember the sacrifice that you've done in the past. Right? And that sacrifice doesn't come from you. It comes from your parents. It comes from their grandparents. And it doesn't matter if it's somebody that was born here, that is from here, that their parents never had to, they don't come from a different country, right? No. Like, there was a specific sacrifice for every single person to get to where they are, right? Sacrifice via time, via work, via, whatever it was. And the most important thing, dude, is you gotta be grateful. You got to be grateful. We worked really hard to get to where we are. All of us, right? And some of us might say like, well, I haven't worked hard enough yet. But guess what? If you wanna be in a spot like this, right? If you wanna be in a position of leadership, if you wanna be in a position of developing others, of helping people, right? You have to be grateful with who you are first. Because if you're not, then what's the point, right? You're not happy with yourself. So then that's why being grateful with not only who you are, with what you are and what you're becoming, what you have, man, that is one of those things where it makes it so that I did that. Wow, I was able to do that. Again, like I was having that conversation with my wife, and we're in our backyard, and we're like, yeah, we did it. And again, but it's because of that, the feeling of gratefulness that allows you to be able to say, cool, I'm gonna continue to work towards that, right? So yeah, man, just one of the, to kind of summarize it is be grateful for that sacrifice, because at the end of the day, is it hard? Yes. Do a lot of times sometimes we want to quit? Like, yes, of course, but trust me, man,
It's worth it.
it's so worth it. It's
Oh,
so
man.
worth it.
Sí se puede, bro.
Yeah, bro. Sí se puede, dude. Sí se puede, 100%.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this amazing American Dream episode. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Nos vemos.